Portland Mountain Rescue is an all-volunteer search and rescue organization. Our focus and our specialty is on climbers on Mount Hood who take a fall or get lost, and we go up and get them and bring them home.
Mount Hood is probably the most popular mountain to climb in the lower 48. There's about 10,000 people a year that attempt to climb it. It is very easy access, and it doesn't look too bad from the parking lot, but then once you start to climb it, you realize that it is quite challenging. It's about 5 miles, over 5,000 feet of elevation.
We made this plan to go out, spend a week hanging out in government camps, snowboarding, and then at the end of our trip, we were gonna climb the mountain. And that's pretty much where it starts. It was after we'd gotten down back to our stuff on Hogsback that we strapped in, and when we dropped in, it was like a sheet of ice. I was basically just free sliding. I just kept sliding and kept sliding.
Late Wednesday afternoon, a climber and 2 friends started for the summit of Mount Hood. On the descent, the surface of the steep Hogsback snow ridge was a sheet of ice. Rescuers said the climber tried to snowboard down, but slid out of control, falling into an open fumarole a few hundred feet below.
He fell another 30 vertical feet into the fumarole and landed on the rocks. Fumaroles are fissures or holes in the rock, and they're found in volcanic areas. And through those holes are going to escape very hot steam, water vapor, as well as toxic gases, such as hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, and carbon dioxide.
I got a message that there was an injured climber with a broken femur at 10,000 feet in a fumarole on Mount Hood. Sadly, my first thought was, I don't think that patient's going to survive. That's such a dangerous place to be in with that kind of injury.
The fumarole that he went into is right over the climbing route.
Mount Hood is one of a few places that are popular climbing destinations that has volcanic activity. Mount Hood is an active volcano.
Once you're in the hole, you can succumb to the poisonous gas, and if somebody isn't there in a timely fashion to get you out, that could be life-threatening.
We had a very significant concern about hypothermia, knowing that it was going to likely take a rescue team many hours to get to him. Once we realized that a helicopter extraction was not going to be possible, we knew this was going to need to be a ground evacuation. Primary objective is to get a team to the subject as quickly as possible and provide that medical care that he needs.
The idea behind Hasty Team is to be the first people there to size up the scene, see what the potential hazards are, get down to the patient to see what his injuries are.
It became evident that I was going to kind of be the chief medical officer for this rescue.
When the Hasty team arrived, they could hear the subject down in the fumarole nearby, hollering, screaming from pain.
They were able to build an anchor and to rig up our fumarole system in order to start to think about how to access the patient. This is our lightweight fumarole rescue system. It was designed by rescue leaders from Portland Mountain Rescue. They also were using a remote gas monitor that can measure the levels of toxic gases. And one of them we have the supervisor monitor you can attach a hose to and throw the hose into the hole, and it can tell you what the gas levels are.
We determined they were hazardous, so that required that we put on respirating masks to purify that air. With the respirator on and goggles on to protect his eyes, tied into all the rescue gear, we were able to lower the team member down into the fumarole, and we finally did reach the patient at about 11 p.m.
It first started by, noticing headlamps start to pop up over the ridge above me. I was just so relieved to hear that they were there, and I was just sitting there trying to be patient with them. I mean, I couldn't imagine trying to lug all that stuff up there.
There was a concern for a spinal cord injury. He's in danger and we need to get him out, but we're afraid to move him. We made the decision as a team to put the patient in a vacuum splint. I will never forget him yelling, screaming in agony with the femur fracture.
I remember my leg flopping around before they could get me strapped in, and it was excruciating.
We then had to lift him and the vacuum splint up to get the sked. The sked is like a kind of like thin plastic stretcher, and then had to kind of go up with him on the ropes, being raised on 2 separate systems to get him out of the fumarole.
Once we got the subject out of the fumarole, We transferred him into a different litter and then had to lower him down the mountain. In order to lower him down the mountain, we use another specialized rope system called the Hogsback lower.
It's another lightweight system that can be carried rather quickly.
And in that manner, we can leapfrog ahead and get those anchors, and that significantly reduces the reset time while we set an anchor, and you can almost keep the patient moving continuously at the pace that you would normally walk downhill.
I could just hear like shouting from above and below, like take the rope now or take the rope here. That's all I could hear is this like real aggressive like sliding of the ice on them trying to rappel me down.
There was a snowcat waiting at the top of the Palmer ski lift. We loaded the subject in, he goes down, there's an ambulance at the bottom.
They loaded me onto a helicopter, life flighted me to the hospital.
Now to an update on the climber who fell into a volcanic pit on Mount Hood last month. He's now back home in Idaho, recovering from his injuries.
The hardest part of that rescue was making the decision to move him, how to move him, when to do it in this dangerous place.
Nearly every weekend we have training events where we're working on staying proficient on these things. In addition to developing these systems, the FUMAROLE extraction system and that lowering system are things that have been custom developed by Portland Mountain Rescue for the specific hazards that we deal with. We do this because we love the work. It's a nice way to be able to give back to the mountaineering community and to do something that truly helps society.
Being down in that hole was super scary, but having that knowledge that a team of people were there to help in this exact situation was a big weight off my shoulders.
You can have your worst day and there's an army of people that are going to do everything in their power to get you out and get you better. This was the culmination of like my whole career in medicine and rescue and mountaineering, and to have all that come together and then have a positive outcome in the face of such adversity, I mean, that meant the world to me.